A new family arrives, full of dreams. But this house has secrets clawing at the walls. Picture this. It's 1851, Audrain County, Missouri. Civilization is just beginning to put down roots, and vast stretches of open prairie swallow sound and sight. Into this wild landscape roll the Rhodes family, hard-working Augustus, hopeful Bernice, their excited son Norman, and the youngest, Celestine, all looking to start a bright new chapter. Their prize? A robust two-story house with a barn, fertile land, and space for hope to grow. The sellers, the Kearneys, seem oddly eager to close the deal. Hiram Kearney, the patriarch, is almost generous to a fault. Demetria's smile never quite touches her cautious eyes. Their adult son, Orville, never says much, but the way he watches, cold, calculating, leaves you unsettled. For Augustus, this is a dream fulfilled. Norman runs wild, Celestine plays under those wide blue skies, and Bernice finally, gratefully, has a home to make her own. Yet, even in these first days, small details feel off. Odd comments from Demetria about happy memories, hands wringing. Orville's stare that lingers a little too long on the children. In isolated places like this, all it takes is the right combination of secrecy and distance for stories and tragedies to slip quietly into legend. You might recall stories from the era, families disappearing, unknown burial mounds found decades later. Sometimes the darkness isn't supernatural. It's what people will do when no one is watching. Before we get deeper, let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Ever heard of an eerie property in your own town? And if this opening's got your pulse racing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We dig up stories others leave buried. But what if your new home is hiding a secret so dark it's almost hungry? The perfect family home begins to turn sinister as whispers and footsteps test the family's sanity. Within days, the Rhodes family's dream trembles at the edges. It starts with subtle things. A chair left out of place, unexpected footsteps above empty rooms. A kitchen window found ajar on a windless night. Augustus tries to write it all off. An old house settling, nerves jangling from the move. Bernice, ever practical, isn't so sure. Norman shrugs it off and dives into his adventures. But little Celestine? She grows quiet, distant, often pausing in the hallway, eyes fixed on the cracks in the wood, as if straining to hear something just out of reach. She tells her mother, "The house talks at night." At first, it sounds like a child's imagination, but Bernice can't shake the chill in her spine. Celestine grows more intense, talking to her doll for hours, whispering words Bernice can never quite catch. Meanwhile, objects keep moving. The barn door is left open, twice, and now even Norman says he's hearing voices from the basement. Every night the footsteps return, hesitant, pacing, never quite getting closer. Maybe you're thinking, it's just creaky old wood, right? But stories from across history tell us that when families report these little things, whispers, cold spots, objects moving, it's often the prelude to something much more human, much more dangerous than ghosts. Some houses, like the infamous Vieliska Axe murder house, had similar hauntings that were later revealed to have flesh and bone threats hidden in their walls. Could you keep sleeping in a house like this? Like this video, if you think you'd tough it out? Or would you pack up and run? Let us know in the comments. But what happens next made even the bravest wish they'd never set foot on Kearney land. When a child vanishes, a shocking history begins to surface. Then comes the turning point, and it's every family's nightmare. One minute, Celestine is there, playing with her doll where Bernice can see her. The next, she's gone. No open doors, no broken windows, no trace. Her disappearance throws the Rhodes family into pure panic. Augustus checks every inch of the house, every inch of land. Norman runs until his voice is raw from calling his sister's name. Bernice is frantic, her fear giving way to a numb, silent terror. Sheriff Lemuel Garrison finally arrives. But his reaction is strange. He does the right things on the surface, organizes searches, brings in volunteers, even calls for tracker dogs. But he never meets Augustus's eye. His tone is rehearsed, and his words betray an unsettling resignation, as though he's done this before. The community combs through the fog and fields as if by rote. Days pass, no footprints, no clues, and it soon feels less like a search and more like a ritual, a gesture that helps people move on rather than find the missing. Back then, missing children often faded into legend. There were no Amber Alerts, no national investigations, just exhausted families and old sheriffs with more secrets than answers. In rural 1850s America, a child could vanish, and the records would amount to little more than a tear-stained note in a family Bible. And in these isolated patches of land, sometimes generations would pass before anyone even realized a pattern. But Augustus begins to wonder, is this just an accident of fate? Or is his family part of something much darker? He's about to uncover a pattern of tragedy that Audrain County has tried to bury for 13 years. What do you think so far? Is there foul play at work already, or would you have trusted the sheriff? Drop your thoughts below. The sellers return with a suspicious offer and stories start to crack open. A month after Celestine disappears, just as the Rhodes family is scraping together their shattered lives, the Kearneys are back. On the surface, they come to offer condolences. But there's something off. The visit feels rehearsed. Hiram, their patriarch, surveys the house with a keen eye, not so much grieving as appraising. Then comes the real reason for their visit. He offers to buy back the property, to give your family a fresh start. The price? Just a fraction of what Augustus paid. Bernice recoils, refusing to entertain such a proposal. Augustus is furious. This is no time for cold business. But as the conversation goes on, odd remarks slip through. Orville, almost against his father's wishes, mutters that land like this brings trouble to folks with young children. Bernice can't forget how well Demetria seemed to know every hidden nook in the house when she first visited, even ones Bernice herself hadn't noticed. Orville's eyes, too, always seemed to linger on Celestine, watching her just a little too closely. In moments like this, psychologists today would warn about the uncanny readiness of predators to insert themselves back into victims' lives, sometimes even helping in investigations, or, in rare cases, buying back homes where tragedy struck. In the 1800s, there were even property scams where bad luck or cursed land was resold, trapping new victims over and over. If you were Augustus, would you have told the Kearneys to leave, or tried to learn more? Let me know in the comments. And before we continue, look back. Are there clues you'd have spotted in their behavior? Sometimes the clues are right in front of us, but Augustus's suspicions are about to crack open a history even more horrifying than anyone imagines. In a bar, Augustus learns of a terrifying pattern, a cycle of families and vanished children. Unable to sleep and desperate for real answers, Augustus heads to the town saloon. That's where he meets Phineas Merrick, a grizzled local with nothing to lose. Over whiskey and lowered voices, Phineas drops the truth. Celestine isn't the first child to vanish from the Kearney property. She's the third. Phineas recounts, almost from memory, the cases of the Rowe family in 1838 and the Walkers a decade later. Different names, same heartbreak, the same chilling routine. Now, each time children disappear, the sheriff does a surface search, and soon after, the Kearneys reappear to buy back the house for next to nothing. As Augustus listens, bitter shock rises inside him. There's a script here, a pattern hidden behind a mask of rural tragedy. Phineas explains the rest. In close-knit 19th century communities, families who pushed for real investigations either left quietly or just gave up. With Sheriff Garrison in control for over 15 years and the Kearneys respected as good folks, anyone who questioned them found themselves shut out, or worse. This sort of hidden serial crime wasn't unique, even in history. In the late 1800s, America saw other horrifying rings, like H. Holmes, whose murder castle had trapdoors and hidden rooms, preying on victims who simply vanished. In small towns, patterns were often missed or deliberately ignored. Now, Augustus's rage turns into purpose. He promises Phineas he will dig deeper, desperate to prove the pattern is real and to find out if his daughter could still be alive. Phineas warns him, "The Kearneys and Sheriff Garrison hold all the local power. For outsiders, that can be deadly." But Phineas reveals an old rumor. The Kearneys kept a northern part of the property with secret structures and tunnels, probably meant to hide what nobody should ever find. If you saw this pattern, would you confront the family or try to gather evidence? Let's discuss in the comments. And if this story is giving you chills, share it with someone who loves unsolved mysteries. What Augustus does next, some say it was heroic, others called it madness. But it changed everything. Augustus witnesses destruction of evidence and realizes the true horror within the property. Fueled by new knowledge and a raw determination for truth, Augustus decides to watch the old house one more time, this time under the cover of darkness. Unlike previous nights, the property isn't fully quiet. By the light of a thin moon, Augustus catches a faint glow from the barn. He creeps closer, silent as the wind in the grass. Inside, he sees Orville Kearney working late, not with crops or cattle, but moving boxes and bundles. Augustus squints through a crack in the wall and sees what Orville is handling: rope, chains, and, gut-wrenchingly, small pieces of children's clothing. Clearly, evidence is being destroyed, evidence that shouldn't have existed at all. Orville burns or hides these grim reminders, his hands practiced, methodical. When he leaves the barn, he checks his surroundings. This isn't the first time he's covered his tracks. Back in the 1800s, criminals depended on controlling the scene and erasing what they could. Law enforcement had no labs, no forensic kits. If you could bury the evidence, literally or figuratively, it often vanished forever. Tunnels and secret rooms weren't just ghost story fodder. Outlaws, bootleggers, and killers alike built them for exactly this kind of cover-up. Augustus realizes there's no hope in waiting for the system to work. If he wants answers, or justice, he'll have to act. Would you have risked approaching the barn, or left the evidence for authorities who might be in on the secret? Comment below if you think you'd have taken action, or if you'd try to escape with your family instead. Before we go on, take a breath. What happens next is almost unbelievable. A desperate act that brings the entire conspiracy crashing down. Flames force the truth into daylight, exposing a secret burial ground. With hope for official justice gone, Augustus takes a final, desperate step. He returns at dusk, a can of kerosene clutched in his fist, his mind made up. He douses the Kearney house, the very timber that hid so much suffering, and strikes a match. The flames roar to life, bright enough for everyone in Audrain County to see. As the inferno devours the building, townsfolk rush to the scene. The Kearneys arrive, panicked, watching their carefully maintained facade crumble with the burning house. Sheriff Garrison tries to keep order, but when all that's left is scorched earth and twisted beams, something else appears. Hidden among the ruins are secret compartments, cleverly built hiding spaces, and, most damning, a concealed entrance to a tunnel under the house. The tunnel stretches into the forest, leading investigators to what they thought and feared might exist. Approximately 100 meters from the tunnel's end, in a claustrophobic clearing, searchers uncover shallow graves. The horror is impossible to deny. 12 children, including Celestine, are found, their remains buried and forgotten. Until now, only 2 can be identified by personal belongings: a small silver locket, initials EW, and a faded rag doll. The local authorities are overwhelmed, and soon state officials are called in. Sheriff Garrison, under pressure, finally breaks. He confesses to years of cover-ups, paid by the Kearneys to look the other way. The operation was calculated. Lure families with children, sow fear, then claim innocent lives under the guise of rural misfortune. Cases like this shocked 19th century America when exposed. When the LaLaurie Mansion or the Fox Sisters seances were unmasked, public outrage was swift but mixed with fear. If evil can go undetected for years, what horrors might still be hidden? Could any justice ever be enough for these children and their families? What sentence would you consider fair? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you believe stories like this should never be forgotten, subscribe so you never miss a Vault of Vile investigation. But the aftermath of the Kearney conspiracy leaves scars the county will never erase. The aftermath, justice, unanswered questions, and a community forever haunted. The fire exposes more than charred timber. The truth sears through Audrain County itself. Augustus Rhodes is cleared of any charges, seen by many now as the man who finally ended the cycle. Sheriff Garrison is convicted, his confession detailing years of complicity for nothing more than money and silence. But the Kearneys? Even as warrants go out, they vanish, slipping away before law could catch up. Rumors place them in distant states, but they're never found. The Rhodes family buries Celestine at last, then leaves Missouri forever. The house's land sits abandoned, a scar in local memory. For decades, neighbors avoid even passing down that road, not out of fear of ghosts this time, but of the real evil they know lived and thrived there. The story lingers, whispered between families who lost children and those who wonder if their lost kin ended up among the 12 discovered in those woods. Sadly, most of the victims remain unidentified. Some families spend generations wondering, never receiving closure. The scale of the Kearney operation, 12 children known, possibly more, leaves people questioning how much darkness can go unnoticed when respectability and authority shield the guilty. Stories like this aren't just old history. Even in modern times, communities have faced unsolved crimes, missing children never found, and authorities shown later to be complicit or negligent. The Kearney conspiracy's legacy is a chilling lesson. Evil can wear a friendly face, and secrets can thrive in silence. That's why we keep telling these stories. Would you, in Augustus' shoes, have dared to fight back, even at such a cost? Tell us in the comments below. Subscribe and ring the bell. We're not done uncovering the hidden chapters of darkness in history. And if you know a friend who loves true mysteries, share this video. They won't sleep easy tonight. Remember, in the end, it wasn't ghosts that haunted the Rhodes family. It was a nightmare crafted by human hands. And sometimes the only way to burn out the darkness is to bring it raging into the light.